Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Thursday, May 2nd, 2024. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Reverend Dr. Bishop William Barber is going to be joining us to talk about the Poor People's Campaign's Mass Poor People and Low-Wage Workers Assembly and Moral March happening in Washington, D.C. next month. Also, as Louisiana fights for a second predominantly voting congressional district, the state Supreme Court has given the green light for white citizens in Baton Rouge to create their own city. Yep, segregating Baton Rouge. Activist Gary Chambers will join us to explain. Folks, hope in Haiti seems to be dwindling as violent gangs initiate new attacks on the capital city while infighting over the Transitional Council's leadership continues. The executive director of the Black Alliance for Just Immigration will join us regarding this issue. Plus, millions of households could have bigger internet bills or no internet service at all if a federal broadband subsidy program that they're enrolled in runs out of money. We'll talk to Baltimore City's Director of Broadband and Digital Equity. Also, folks, we'll, of course, continue focusing on what's happening with the student protests all across the country. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the best, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin.
The Poor People's Campaign is in the middle of a 40-week operation to mobilize and organize folks across this nation. Bishop William Barber says the campaign hopes that 7,000 volunteers will mobilize some 15 million low-income and poor voters nationwide for this year's election. The Mass Poor People's and Low-Wage Workers Assembly and Moral March in Washington, D.C. will take place on Saturday, June 29th. Joining us right now is Reverend Dr. William Barber, who is the president and senior lecturer of repairs of the breach. Reverend Barber, for the last 3 years, you have been trying to get President Joe Biden to meet with you and affected workers. You met with Vice President Harris. The White House would love for you to meet with the president alone, but you've made it clear that you're not interested in going to the White House for a one-on-one meeting, that he needs to meet with and talk with across the table from affected workers. Explain to people why that's your position.
Well, leadership should always be about who you bring through the door, Roland. You're not talking about this all the time, not just going through the door yourselves. And the other reason is we need to put a face on these poor and low-wage workers, 52 million of them who make less than $15 an hour. There's not a county or city in this country where you can work a minimum wage job and afford a basic two-bedroom apartment. And poor people are dying at a rate of 800 people a day $295,000 a year. It would take 600 years of funerals going every day of every year for 600 years to go to the number of funerals that will happen because of poverty in just 1 year. The president has an opportunity to bring folk like that to the White House. Many who supported his push for $15 an hour in union, and economists and moral leaders to put this as a front issue in this campaign. And then call on the Senate to vote in committee and then out of committee the bill that Sanders has put forth, $17 in a union, pass it and push it to the House and let Johnson and them do what he does. He says his House speakership is going to be saved by Democrats. Well, let's see if he would support living wages for all people, not just Democrats, but Republicans, independents, black, white, whoever. And then if folk don't do that, you can say this is the difference between us and them. In the next election, give us a majority. This is what we're going to do. If you give other folk a majority, this is what they're not going to do. So we've always been about, Roland, we have to put a face on this issue. And what would be better than to have 5 or 10 poor, low-wage workers from North, East, West, and South, a couple of renowned economists, some moral leaders and union leaders in the room, let them talk with the president in the Oval Office, and then come out and talk about why this issue, living wages and addressing poverty, ought to be at the center of our political discussions. Because the truth is, Roland, last time we had 15 presidential debates and not one of them talked about poverty and low wages that affects 135 million people in this country, 58% of black people and over 30% of whites.
In 2020, folks, go to my iPad, Henry, there was, y'all had your presidential forum. Then candidate Biden came there, took questions as well. And the point that you just made, the reason that is so critically important is because the bottom line is these are working people. This is the working poor. These are the people who were on the front lines during COVID. These are the people who got us through COVID, who were at grocery stores, they were picking up the trash, they were working security, all of those jobs. And the problem in this country is that all you often hear is middle class, 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 and folk are afraid to even say the word poor. And so fine, if you don't want to say poor, fine, say low income. And when you talk about put a face on it, that's literally what Dr. King said in 1968, which is why they had the original Poor People's Campaign, said we need to put a face on poverty so members of Congress can see what poor people look like.
That's right. And what they will see is that, yes, disproportionately black people are poor and low wage, but there are 40 million more poor and low wage white people than there are black. What they will see is 1/3 of all poor people live in the South and 1/3 of all white poor people live in the South. What they will see is that these people come in every race, creed, and color, but they will also see something else, Roland. And this is why when they came to us in 2020, all of the candidates said they were going to put this issue out front. They were going to make sure the debates reflected this. Well, that didn't happen. And then we had one vote on living wages. 8 Democrats and 49 Republicans joined together to block 52 million Americans coming out of poverty. And 43%, Roland, of all black people would have come up out of poverty if one bill had been passed. But here's the thing. They would if we put a face on it, and we're saying ending poverty, low wage, passing living wages, health care, fully funding public education, dealing with voter suppression, expanding voting laws, and you go down the line we have 17 points. The AFL-CIO has now joined in with us, the SEIU 1199, the entire National Council of Churches. This is a massive group of folk that are trying to say, don't let this election be about innuendos and what color somebody's hair is and where somebody's sitting in a courtroom. Let's not let the last image of people coming to D.C. be an insurrection. Let it be a resurrection, a moral resurrection of people of every race, creed, and color, saying the kind of democracy we want is one that lifts up all people. And if you say that, in battleground states, Roland, 40% of the electorate are poor and low wealth. 40%. In every state where the margin of victory was only 3%, except in Texas where it was 5%, Poor people make up 36 to 42% of the electorate, and there's not a battleground state, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina, where if 20% of poor and low wage, infrequent voters were to vote, that they could not turn the tide. And you know the number one reason, Roland, this is data, we did a study, that they don't vote? Nobody talks to them. That's the number one reason that they don't talk, that they don't vote. In Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and North Carolina last time, the margin of victory total was 270,000 votes. The number of poor and low wage voters infrequent that could vote is 4.3 million. 4.3 million. So anybody not talking to these voters is engaged in a kind of political suicide. So Linda Lake, who's an outstanding pollster, and Cornell Belcher have all said this is the block that you must touch, but you can't touch them if you don't even talk to them and sit with them.
On Monday, Vice President Kamala Harris was in Atlanta, and it was the first stop on their economic opportunity tour. And I had a conversation with her folks before, and I said, listen, she has to speak to low-income working poor, because the conversation just can't be about African-American businesses, startups, African-American in contracts. I said, we got to speak to all levels. I said, because, listen, I own a business.
Right.
My brother owns a business. My sister and her husband, they own a business. But I have two other sisters who don't. I've got nieces and nephews. I've got cousins. I got folk who are working poor. And so the conversation has to be broadened. And you're right, by speaking to those folk, because let's be real clear, Republicans ain't speaking to them. You got Republicans who are trying to cut SNAP benefits. They're sitting here trying, look, we know what happened after COVID. They cut unemployment insurance. People like Sarah Lindsey Graham said folk were making too much money on unemployment. Let's get them back to work. Well, hell, if they were making too much money on unemployment, it's clear they were not making enough money on their regular job. And so we can go on, and then we talk about those battleground states. That means you're talking to the working poor and low-income, low-wage folks in Michigan, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. You talk about Arizona. You talk about Georgia.
Florida.
Florida. North Carolina. And as you said, it's the margins. I keep saying this when the Biden folk call me. I say, y'all, you only won Arizona and Georgia by 10, 12,000 votes. 1,000 here, 1,000 there. That's the margin of victory. You can't act like we could just ignore huge swaths of people and there's no big deal.
In Florida, it would only take 2% of the registered poor and low wage voters that did not vote to vote. When 15 was on the ballot, it won. So whenever the economic issues, but if you're talking just black business and contract, listen, if you have a black business that's going to primarily depend on black folk, if they don't have money, they can't support your business anyway. I mean, it literally makes no sense. In 2020, they ran on living wages and voting rights. And what happened? 54% of all the people in Georgia that make less than $50,000 a year in a family voted in the majority for a progressive ticket. When we were in Georgia, the number of voters that we moved, and we didn't even endorse a person, we endorsed issues.
Right.
The number of voters that we moved to the polls that had not been moved were 3 times the margin of victory in the Senate race and 3 times the margin of victory in the presidential race. If we don't talk, it's 87 million, Roland, 87 million. Now, about 57 million voted. So that means there's 30 million poor and low wage voters out there that are infrequent. They have voted, but the number one reason they're not voting now is when people talk about economics, they never even hear themselves mentioned. And living wages is polling at 70%. In fact, most of the issues we're supporting actually are polling, even in Mississippi now, healthcare is polling 60% among Republicans. 60% among Republicans, according to some studies. And so we should be talking to ourselves, talking to this swath. And then lastly, how can you say you care about people dying. If 295,000 people are dying here from reversible, unavoidable, abolishable poverty, and you decide you're not going to address that. When COVID got to 500 people a day dying, we said it was a crisis. Well, 800 people are dying a day from poverty. It should be a crisis. It should be at the top of the ticket as a concern.
Questions from my panel. We have Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University, Reese Colbert, host of our own show on Sirius XM Radio. Glad to have both of you here. Reese, you first.
Dr. Reverend Barber, it's always a pleasure to be in conversation with you. Have you seen any appetite? I know that there was a discussion a while back about reviving the child tax credit. Is that something that you have been pushing for, your organization has been pushing for on a bipartisan basis?
Indeed. In fact, I'm actually in some conversation now with senators, Republicans, and Democrats who are talking about living wages. We're not there yet, but I mean they're at least talking, and about child income tax credits. And because see, child income tax credit lifted 60% of children out of poverty for 6 months, and then we threw them right back in. And it didn't hurt the economy. It didn't throw us into inflation. Child income tax credit, earned income tax credit. And by the way, even Ronald Reagan supported this kind of stuff. I mean, living wages, and you take child income tax credit, that's 6% of children coming out of poverty. Then you do living wages, that's 52 million people coming out of poverty making living wages, and it would pump $330 billion into the economy, which would be income that would be turned over, creating jobs and all of those things. We're hustling backwards. 51% of all our children are poor and low wealth. Why wouldn't we keep child income tax credit and earned income tax credit? That's why we're having this mass poor people's low wage workers assembly moral march on Washington on June 29th, 10 o'clock on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's going to be massive. It's going to be multiracial. It's going to be thousands of people. But we're not doing it just to have a march. It is to put these issues at the center before both presidential conventions, demand that they be addressed, and say, if you want these votes, speak to these people. And then after the march, we're going to continue our work to touch 15 million poor and low-wage voters. And we're saying to them, you have to vote your principles and issues and not just vote for personality, because that's really what on. But you're exactly right, my sister. Child income tax credit, earned income tax credit, social safety nets. You know, there are about 8 pieces of legislation. I said to Roland one day, Roland, if you could pass 8 pieces of legislation and virtually end poverty, don't you think that would be something to do in a democracy like ours? Well, that's where we are now. We could actually abolish almost all poverty with about 8 pieces of legislation that actually wouldn't diminish the country, wouldn't add to the debt. It would actually add to the bottom line and increase the economic vitality of the nation.
Greg Carr.
Thank you, Roland. And it's always good to hear your voice, Brother Barber. And we'll see you, God willing, in June. See you next month. I want to ask you a kind of global question. It's not fair, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway, because I don't know anybody better prepared to answer it. What's the old saying? History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Thinking about another poor people's campaign, another deeply unpopular international conflict with the United States at the center. Thinking about student movements all over the country, but I'm thinking, of course, about 1968. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about how this convergence of U.S. foreign policy that has led to over 2,000 arrests on college campuses around the country, and unlike 1968, where you had a president like Johnson who was actually would say poor and would put together a quote-unquote war on poverty, do you have any thoughts about the trajectory of how the Democratic Party's very milquetoast and tepid engagement with the poor might be because they're trying to shave a few more votes off and they're trying to stay out of this Palestinian conflict, but how ultimately the moral stand that you have always taken, and those of us who support you and who surround you always agree with, how that might complicate politics for the Democrats and perhaps cause them to be even more timid as it relates to domestic policy and what we can do about that kind of thing.
Well, it does complicate it, make it timid if you try to look at it from the normal left versus right Republican versus Democratic politics. But there are moments in history, not only do histories rhyme, history calls you to rise, and you have to rise to a moral concern. And so right now in this moment, when I see young folk who engaged in nonviolence, I'm not talking about folk that are tearing things down and trying to hurt people that may be infiltrated, but I'm talking about nonviolent civil disobedience and engaged. At the heart of that, and at the heart of protest, they're talking about we don't want to see continual unnecessary killing of people, innocent people, and poverty. I mean, at the heart of it all. Now, what I've been saying to folk is if that's your moral perspective, then you have to be concerned. You have to cry out against what's happened, what Hamas did. You have to cry out what Netanyahu is doing and that history that goes along with it and the massive unnecessary killing of Palestinian people. You have to cry out against what happened in the Congo, over 6 million, Sudan. You know, we have to cry out all this massive death because of poverty in this country. You have to cry out against the continuous violations against Native people in this country, and you have to have a moral framing that says at the end of the day, we are against death by policy, death by war, death by genocide, death by murder. And if that's the cry, then no politician should shy away from it. In fact, what we should do is stand up forthright. So on June 27th, when we marched on state capitals, we were focused on state issues. But when we marched on the 29th, one of the issues we're marching on is we're saying because we care about the death of poor people right here in America, we cannot ignore the death of poor people and around the world. So we're calling for an end, a ceasefire, return of the hostages, humanitarian assistance, and a path toward peace. You have to be able to stand up and say that. And what we're saying is what the UN originally said it was about, and others in 1948. There has to be in this moment a moral moment. That's why when I tell folk, Brother Carr, I said, when I was met with the vice president, I said, the president in this moment needs to gather some bishops and religious Christian justice leaders, Muslim and Jewish, in that Oval Office and have a deep moral conversation with all three, because if you can't bring people together here, how are you going to bring them together ever? And need to call for an immediate ceasefire. And when the ceasefire happens, and we need to demand it, we don't need to fund what's going to create more war, create more destruction, and then immediately put a delegation together of clergy to go there and visit with people in Gaza and Palestine who have lost innocent people, people in Israel who have lost innocent children and women, because somehow the blood of the death of the innocent and the pain of that has the potential to unite us and help us get to another conversation, which is the hope for peace and the end of destruction and violence and hate. But you cannot walk away from moments, Brother Carter. There are moments, as you said, not only does history rhyme, but history demands that we rise. And we rise to the moment we're in.
Folks, June 29th in Washington, D.C., the Moral March will be taking place in the nation's capital. We were there last year, broadcasting live. We will be there again this year. Again, the Mass Poor People and Low-Wage Workers Assembly and Moral March in Washington, D.C. But let me be perfectly clear. This is not a call for folks only to come to D.C.
No, and to the polls.
And there you go. Because the thing is, y'all are going to be assembling all across the country on that day, not just in D.C.
Exactly. And Roland, you and I have to, here's the formula, and I don't mind telling folk, 7,000 times 35 times 45 times 9. If you organize 200 people in 35 states, that's 7,000 people. If 7,000 people will use the technology we have today and touch 45 people a day, 6 days a week, for 9 weeks, you touch over 15 million people. That's what we're putting together, our strategy.
And so for folk to understand, this is not a day where you're going to see big names come up, give speeches, and then step off the podium. No, you're going to hear affected workers. It is about organizing, mobilizing. Y'all hear me talk about this all the time. And so just so y'all know, these are conversations Reverend Barber and I have all the time off air because both of us don't believe in meaningless get-togethers that serve no purpose other than folk just getting together and having a picnic on a Sunday day. It is about mobilizing and organizing for a very specific purpose, and that's what June 29th is all about. Put the graphic back up. Folks, please do us a favor. We want you to text MORAL to 38542 and share this with your friends and family. Text MORAL to 38542. Share it on your social media. We have the ability really to really challenge folks, to educate folks, to speak to them and their needs. But we cannot get any of these bills passed if folk simply sit on the couch. Reverend Barber, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, folks, when we come back, white folks in Baton Rouge have successfully got the Supreme Court to allow them to create their own city. We are going right back to what we saw during Jim Crow days. Wait till we explain to you what is happening in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. A lot of y'all have been asking me about the pocket squares that we have available on our website. You see me rocking the Shibori pocket square right here. It's all about looking different. And look, summertime is coming up. Y'all know, I keep trying to tell fellas, change your look, please. You can't wear athletic shoes every damn wear. So if you're putting on linen suits, if you're putting on some summer suits, have a whole different look. The reason I like this particular pocket square, the Shibori, is because it's sort of like a flower and looks pretty cool here versus the traditional boring silk pocket squares. But also I like being a little different as well. So this is why we have these custom-made feather pocket squares on the website as well. My sister actually designed these after a few years ago. I was in this battle with Steve Harvey at Essence, and I saw this at a St. Jude fundraiser. I saw this feather pocket square, and I said, well, I got some ideas. So I hit her, and she sent me about 30 different ones. And so this completely changes your look. Now, some of you men out there, I had some dudes say, oh, man, I can't wear that. Well, if you ain't got swagger, that's not my problem. But if you're looking for something different to spruce up your look, fellas, ladies, if y'all looking to get your man a good gift, I've run into brothers all across the country with the feather pocket squares saying, see, check mine out. And so it's always good to see them. And so this is what you do. Go to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. You can order Shibori pocket squares or the custom-made pocket squares. Now, for the Shiboris, we're out of a lot of the different colors, and I think we're down to about 200 or 300. So you want to get your order in as soon as you can, because here's what happened. I got these several years ago, and the Japanese company signed a deal with another company, and I bought them before they signed that deal, and so I can't get access to any more from the company in Japan that makes them. And so get yours now. So come summertime, when I see y'all at Essence, y'all could be looking fly with the Shibori pocket square or the custom-made pocket square. Again, RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. Go there now.
What's good, y'all? This is Doug E. Fresh, and you're watching my brother Roland Martin Unfiltered as we go a little something like this. Hit it. It's real.
2024, guess what? In Louisiana, the state Supreme Court there is allowing a largely white community to break apart and separate from the city of Baton Rouge to create their own city. This has been a 6-year effort by folks there. On Friday, the Supreme Court granted the formation of the predominantly white city of St. George, which will be separate from Baton Rouge. The ruling is sparking concerns about segregation. Activist Gary Chambers posted a video talking about this here. He joins us now from Baton Rouge. Gary, glad to have you here. You made clear, Gary, that this was a very organized effort by a handful of people with a lot of money to achieve the creation of their own city. Walk folks through how this happened.
So, Roland, we have a man named Norman Browning who organizes a group of about 10 people that decide they want a new school district because they don't want their kids to go to the schools of Baton Rouge. Keep in mind, Baton Rouge is the city that had the longest desegregation lawsuit in America. We didn't finish that lawsuit until the 90s. And so when you look at the conversation around people wanting a new school district, these are people who ultimately don't want their kids to go to school with black kids. Currently, the school district in Baton Rouge is 80% black, even though the city is 56% black. So white parents in Baton Rouge right now, for the most part, do not send their kids to public schools in Baton Rouge. As a result of not getting that school district, these folks then decided to try to start a city. They failed the first time because the city was, I think at that time, going to be 60% white. They went back, cut out black neighborhoods, cut out black apartment complexes, made the municipality smaller, put it back on the ballot, and got it passed by a vote of 17,000 people. The vote of 17,000 now impacts 400,000 people who live in East Baton Rouge Parish because of the general fund that's $1 billion of city parish money, 300 million of that is not dedicated. And they're going to take away $48 million of resources from the general fund in order to create this new municipality. So I don't really care if they go off and segregate themselves, but I do care that we've paid into the fortunes of that portion of town for the last 50 years. And to say that you're going to start a new community and then we owe you money for that community, well, we've been paying a whole lot for a long time, and we want our portion to be paid for if you're going to get it.
So what's interesting here, you also mentioned that you have a black mayor in Baton Rouge, and it's not like, Baton Rouge ain't Atlanta. It's not like there have been black mayors for the last 30 plus years.
No, she is the second black mayor of Baton Rouge. Kip Holden was the first black mayor of Baton Rouge. He was elected in 2004, took office in 2005. So when you put that into perspective, black folks have only been in leadership in this city for under 20 years, okay? So to tell us that the woes or the condition of this city are all the fault of the black leadership, and let's be clear, Roland, the council is majority white, majority conservative in Baton Rouge. It's a 12-member council, 7 white conservatives serve on the Metro Council here in Baton Rouge, and they approve or disapprove of all of the plans of the mayor. And so when we talk about the progress of a community, we have to talk about the inequities and the tale of two cities that have existed for long before Sharon Weston Broome was the mayor of Baton Rouge. We have to talk about how we've invested in South Baton Rouge, the portion of town that is segregating themselves away, and to the demise of North Baton Rouge, actually. And so if we don't have honest conversations about how we got here, then we can't have an honest conversation about how we move forward. And the truth is, when people talk about this unity and why do we talk about race, this is why we talk about race, because people are literally segregating their children, segregating the city, and then taking away resources from our community. And to be clear, 50 years ago, when black people were becoming the majority or growing in population in Baton Rouge, they changed us to a consolidated form of government, which was we won't just have a city, we'll have a city and a county. So Mayor Broome is the mayor of the city of Baton Rouge and the parish president of the parish of East Baton Rouge. And so we have a council that is convened that represents the entirety of the parish, but white communities continue to segregate themselves off when they realize that black leadership is going to be in charge for the future of this community.
I saw there was a state representative who's looking to have this Supreme Court decision reheard or try to have them do it again?
President of the City Council, Lamont Cole, Mayor Pro Tem Lamont Cole, is challenging to have them rehear it. There are certain aspects that the justices did not consider. One of the things the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, who is a conservative, wrote a dissenting opinion and said that this was a decision masquerading as a ruse of a decision, and said that that was a deficient argument put forth because they couldn't even prove that they were going to pay for the services of the city. They have proposed that it's going to cost them $47 million to run a city of 80,000 people, and they're going to privatize every aspect of the services of the city. They don't even have a plan for policing, Roland. They plan to just take the sheriff's department and just give them $4 million and hope that that covers the bill.
Wow. Questions from our panel. Greg Carr.
Thank you, Roland. It's always good to see you, Brother Chambers. The way I understand it, and I know you know this history better than all of us, these white boys have done this earlier, I guess, with Central, is it, outside of Baton Rouge? And I'm from Nashville, so I remember how they went municipal: Nashville, Davidson County, Atlanta, Fulton County, Jefferson County, Birmingham. My question is about how, what's the impact of us not getting involved in the political process? I know you've been doing that. You know, we all came to know you probably outside of Louisiana when you jumped on Connie there at the school board meeting. You know, what is it going to take for our people to understand? I remember the comedian Paul Mooney once said, you know, they want to move away from us now, but during slavery and Jim Crow, they wanted us all up under them in their beds, in their bedrooms, in the kitchens. But now that that's over, they want to get away. What is it going to take to trigger some kind of resurgence in our consciousness to get involved in what has been a long-term strategy for these kind of races, which is to get away from us as far as possible?
You know, I think that some of us had hoped that some people were better than they were, and the realities of today are making people have a wake-up call. I hope, that is my hope, that being able to see things that you and I and Roland and others have been talking about for years play out in real time, I think is a clarion call that many people are going to say, I didn't think they would go this far. They will go this far and further. They want to take as many rights from you as possible. Just today, there was a conversation about a bill in the state legislature in Louisiana that will make it a crime to have an abortion pill. That if you have an abortion pill, they're going to make it a controlled substance in the state of Louisiana. That if you have a person is found with pills that induce an abortion, that you would be considered to have a controlled substance in the state of Louisiana. These people will go to the pits of hell to strip your rights away from you in every aspect, whether you are a man, if you're a black man, black woman, or if you're a woman in general, they will go to the pits of hell to strip your rights away from you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Reese.
Mr. Chambers, it's always good to see you out here on the front lines. My question, to your point about the composition of the leadership in Baton Rouge, can you explain how this new segregated city, does this just siphon off resources from a black city while still keeping white overseers in place in Baton Rouge, or will this actually empower more black residents to take back more power in the city and possibly change the composition of the way the leadership is structured right now?
So because we have a consolidated form of government and a gerrymandered map, we currently don't have the potential for black leadership to be able to run the entirety of the community. The gerrymandered map is the problem right now. There's conversations to challenge that even in the courts to make sure that the city council gets a fair map in Louisiana, because every map that's been drawn in the state has been ruled unconstitutional, in my opinion. If you rule the congressional maps and the legislative maps to be unconstitutional, then you got to know that the city council maps in the blackest cities are unconstitutional as well. And so when you look at that, that's the challenge for us, that we have built these communities for the last 50 years with the tax dollars of black folks that in the northern portion of the parish, seeing divestment in our communities. And now these people want to take their toys and go home. There's a new exit off the interstate that Mayor Sharon Weston Broome approved for the people that live in this portion of town. But you say that she hadn't done anything for your side of town. Folks in North Baton Rouge would challenge and say that we want more done in North Baton Rouge. And so we have seen the rise of that side of town by the expenses of all of us. And so what we are saying now is you can't then get resources from us and bleed us dry and then go and prosper with all that we built. And so we've got to have a position of protecting what is for the citizens of Baton Rouge. If they want to start their own city, start it from scratch. Y'all so damn bad.
Well,
I know that's right.
So look, the shenanigans continue. Monday, Baton Rouge Mayor Sharon Weston will be joining us on the show. Gary, keep up the battle, keep fighting, and we'll keep elevating it and keeping an eye on it, because I keep telling folk, if you don't have black-owned media, it's a lot of stuff that will get done, and nobody will ever know about it until it's too late.
Thank you so much, Roland. We really appreciate you.
All right. Thanks a bunch. Appreciate it. All right, folks, going to a break. When we come back, lots more to talk about, including a broadband bill that needs to get passed. Otherwise, folks may be losing access very soon. So we'll be chatting about that coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Also, folks, support us in what we do. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. I went to the mailbox today, and I appreciate all of y'all. So just understand, I know I love my people who don't believe in technology. They like, look, we gonna still support the show. Now I gotta sit here and open every envelope and do what we gotta do. So a bunch of y'all, so this is the mail over the last 2 weeks. These are money orders and checks right here, so I appreciate it. For those of you who want to support us electronically, we got all the ways to do it. And again, I told y'all just a couple days ago, Byron Allen's The Griot axed all of their shows except one. All of them. So Mark Lamont Hill's Daily Show, gone. Ebony Williams' Daily Show, gone. I think Natasha Alford had a show, gone. The only show they kept was Touré's, entertainment show. That's the only one they kept. So ain't nobody else doing what we do. Nobody, y'all. So if you want daily news, you got to depend upon mainstream media, white digital outlets that barely employ any of us. And so what we're doing here, this is black owned. This is black operated. This is us speaking truth to power and covering the stuff that matters to us. And so your support is critical. And I'm telling y'all, I'm meeting with all these agencies. We've had some great meetings with Publicis. I'm waiting to see if we get any advertising money from it. We've been meeting with Group M, trying to meet with their chief investment officers so we can show them what we can do. We've been sitting here talking to OMD. We need to meet with their chief investment officer team, waiting to hear back from him. Havas, we ain't even heard from Havas. We emailed them 3 months ago. We haven't heard from them. Magna, IPG, we're talking to them as well. And so, y'all, these are the people that control the nearly $400 billion in advertising every single year. And black-owned media is getting 1% or less of that money. And we started the Black-Owned Media Collective in 2021. And there's some other black folks who got some money. They did. Go out there fighting. But I kept telling them we should move as a collective because guess what's going to happen? If they isolate us, they're going to start pulling back. And you know what happened in the end of 2023? The money starts softening. I've heard from other black-owned media outlets, major black-owned media companies, of the softening of the market. You know why? Because all those George Floyd commitments, they were like, all right, yeah, we good. So here we are this month, 4 years after his death, and these companies, and I warned everybody this was going to happen. I warned them. And so we're trying to build something here. We're trying to build multiple shows. We're trying to have more hours of news, but you cannot do it, y'all, without money. You can't do it without resources. I don't care what you say. Y'all can holler, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Y'all can holler all that stuff you want to. But a lot of y'all who say that, y'all ain't paid no bills. You ain't made no payroll payments. None of that sort of stuff. So this is what it takes. And I'm telling you, what we have right now, we don't have other places. You're not talking about Ebony and Jet back in the day, because Ebony and Jet, they are, frankly, a shadow of what they used to be. So you're checking money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Do all you can to support the show. We'll be right back in a moment. First, President Barack Obama's road to the White House. We got about 500 copies of the book available. And so this actually is all of the coverage of the 2008 election. But the other thing is this here. I talked to folks like Malik Yoba, Hill Harper, Erica Alexander, Kevin Lau, Spike Lee, Tatiana Ali. But there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff in here as well, where I talked about some of the stuff that went down at CNN. Also, when you go through here, a lot of the photos that you see in here, of photos that I actually shot, photos that were my time at CNN. And so what I decided to do, because one, I published the book and I own it myself, is that so I said, you know what, I'm going to slash the price to $10. And so we're going to have shipping and handling $5.99. I'm going to personally autograph every copy. I'm not reprinting the book. So once we are sold out of these 500, that's it. They're gone. So you can go to RolandSMartin.com/the-first to get a copy of this book. Everybody who orders this book through the website, not on Amazon, only through RolandSMartin.com, I will personally autograph and mail you a copy of this book. It's all of the covers, the actual interviews that I did with him. And just to show you, of course, when it came out, there's actually even in here the interviews that I did with him and Michelle Obama, which won TV One Cable Network's its first 2 NAACP Image Awards. And so all of that for $10. Shipping and handling is $5.99. So go to RolandSMartin.com the first and order your copy today.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. We welcome a towering intellect, activist, master theorist, prolific author, and unstoppable firebrand for change. The one and only Dr. Errol Henderson joins us to talk about his new book, The Revolution Will Not Be Theorized, Cultural Revolution in the Black Power Era.
And this is what's going on in so much of academia and in some movement circles is an anti-Black nationalism.
It's an hour of power that you don't want to miss. That's right here on the Black Table on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. State of the Union 2024, huge night for President Joe Biden.
This was a CBS receipts type of night.
He dragged the hell out of the Supreme Court. And he said, y'all gonna see the power of women.
Trump's brain is melting as we speak.
We want to organize from a place of strength.
There's no confusion whatsoever about what they've done and what they plan to do.
What Donald Trump is doing is presenting a fallacy.
He is convincing them that he's all in it for them, when in fact he's all in it for himself.
We do not feel Joe Biden, in spite of the success that have taken place during this administration economically, there are too many things where we do not feel like he's had our back.
You should also be investing in the barbershops and the beauty salons and the hookah bars and the folks who are going to the club, and there's a way to actually get them registered because we've done it before. But if you don't have folks who understand that dynamic, then you're missing a big opportunity.
So we said we just celebrated. For what? Why don't you go to Selma to celebrate rather than recommit yourself to the fight if the very thing we went to celebrate has been gutted?
Republicans did not support a lot of the bills that were necessary to keep the country fluid. You can't only love your country when you win it, right?
Oh, no. You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut?
This was absolutely the knockdown, drag out that we were really waiting for.
Black voters are the base. They're the most important base of the Democratic Party. There was very few language in this speech. At a time we see an attack on black history, an attack on DEI. The end of the BLM racial reckoning thing has come to a complete end because there was nothing in this speech for that.
Our movement has never been grounded in two-party politics in this country. All of our movements ultimately get co-opted by a state that is anti-black.
They called the old because they knew the way, and they called the young because they were strong. And I believe there is a good combination of that. But we can have ideas and we can have visions and dreams, but we have to have our young people also working beside us because they are strong and they will run that race and they will run it to the end.
Activists, organizers, and young people have been pushing this administration to be on the right side of history and to do something about the issues that they care about.
While the Ukraine and Palestine are critical issues, they are not the only global issues.
Not a single black person who should ever let it come out their mouth that I'm tired. Because there is somebody else who came before us who didn't stop fighting.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I was just in my backyard. I just said I was manifesting about life. I said, I would love to come back because it was a great time, and these kids need that right now. They need that male role model in the schools, I think. Even on TV. Yeah. Because people are scared to go into the high schools. You know, the high school, you know what I mean? I would love to bring it back, and I think we can bring it back. You know, what do you think? I think we'll ask the people, we'll ask your people.
We'll do a poll. Y'all want to hang a Mr. Cooper?
Yeah, I say, let's go. We all look good. You know, Holly looked good. You know, Raven looked the same. Marquise, Don Lewis. It'd be funny to have the bullshit you see out there on TV now. God damn. What the fuck? What happened to TV?
It's some...
I'm like, oh my God.
Hello, I'm Jamia Pugh. I am from Coatesville, Pennsylvania, just an hour right outside of Philadelphia.
My name is Jasmine Pugh. I'm also from Coatesville, Pennsylvania.
You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay right here.
As college campuses are cleaning up after the various protests, President Joe Biden condemned the unruly behavior but defended the rights of the peaceful pro-Palestinian protesters.
We've all seen the images, and they put to the test two fundamental American principles. Excuse me. The first is the right to free speech and for people to peacefully assemble and make their voices heard. The second is the rule of law. Both must be upheld. We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or squash dissent. The American people are heard. In fact, peaceful protest is in the best tradition of how Americans respond to consequential issues. But, neither are we a lawless country. We are a civil society, and order must prevail. Throughout our history, we've often faced moments like this because we are a big, diverse, free-thinking, and freedom-loving nation. In moments like this, there are always those who rush in to score political points. But this isn't a moment for politics. It's a moment for clarity. So let me be clear. Peaceful protest in America. Violent protest is not protected. Peaceful protest is. It's against the law when violence occurs. Destroying property is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Vandalism, trespassing, breaking windows, shutting down campuses, forcing the cancellation of classes and graduations. None of this is a peaceful protest. Threatening people, intimidating people, instilling fear in people is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Dissent is essential to democracy, but dissent must never lead to disorder or to denying the rights of others so students can finish the semester and their college education. Look, it's basically a matter of fairness. It's a matter of what's right. There's the right to protest, but not the right to cause chaos. People have the right to get an education, the right to get a degree, the right to walk across the campus safely without fear of being attacked. But let's be clear about this as well. There should be no place on any campus, no place in America for anti-Semitism or threats of violence against Jewish students. There is no place for hate speech or violence of any kind, whether it's anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or discrimination against Arab Americans or Palestinian Americans. It's simply wrong. There's no place for racism in America. It's all wrong. It's un-American. I understand people have strong feelings and deep convictions. In America, we respect the right and protect the right for them to express that. But it doesn't mean anything goes. It needs to be done without violence, without destruction, without hate, and within the law. You know, make no mistake, as president, I will always defend free speech, and I will always be just as strong in standing up for the rule of law. That's my responsibility to you, the American people, my obligation to the Constitution.
Hundreds of protesters at college campuses across the country have been arrested this week during the demonstrations in Los Angeles. Police arrested 132 people at UCLA Wednesday night and more than 300 at Columbia University and City College. Now, most of those are at City College. The pro-Palestinian protesters are demanding that their schools divest of funds from Israeli military operations. At Brown, they are going to vote on that. And they also announced that they're not going to be expelling any students. Let's go to our panel here. Greg Carr, what do you make? First of all, when you start talking about these protests, it's interesting listening to the language. I mean, I look at some of these shows and I'm going, are y'all serious? I mean, you have folk who are suggesting that any protest is anti-Semitic. Then you got folks who are trying to compare these protests to January 6th. Idiotic. And then there's this notion that we can't, like you take it even with Columbia. Well, guess what? They were infiltrated and some of the people who were out there protesting weren't even students. I think those details are kind of important. Then you got the NYPD just create lies, okay, shoveling lies out. Then when it gets fact-checked, it's like, oh my goodness. And then I'm gonna pull up in a second as this one dude who just tore apart CNN's Dana Bash for giving a commentary saying, oh, what we're seeing is hearkening back to the 30s in Europe. What the hell are you talking about?
Roland, you're right, of course. Dana Bash, Abby Phillips, they're embarrassing themselves, but I'm sure some of that is coming from the top down. The cops on Morning Joe with a bike lock saying that this is the type of thing that they're using to infiltrate the hall at Columbia. But quite frankly, what we're seeing is, first of all, we know the protests aren't over. The Daily Pennsylvania, and shout out to student journalists. The student journalists on WCKR, which is the Columbia University radio station, who've been reporting. The young people writing for the Daily Pennsylvanian, I've been reading that. They reported today that the University of Pennsylvania, of course, invited the Philadelphia police onto campus. And the Philadelphia police said, yeah, we're assessing this, and it doesn't look like this rises to the level of something we need to intervene on. So they did not come in. Shout out to Eric Adams, the punkish mayor of New York City, who is making sure he will not have a second term by rah-rahing, letting loose these police onto the campus of Columbia. But ultimately, and this is why I asked Reverend Barber what I asked him. Roland, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on this as well. I mean, this isn't 1968. However, isn't it ironic? There will be a convention at the end of this summer.
In Chicago.
And the anti-Vietnam War, it's a different era. However, Joe Biden's tepid, both-sidism kind of speech there flies in the face of the fact that this is not going away. The International Court of Justice any day now will swear out a warrant on the biggest mass murderer of the 21st century, Bibi Netanyahu. Turkey decided today to shut down diplomatic relations. Colombia, the president of Colombia announced yesterday, they're going to shut down relations with Israel. Global opinion is clearly on one side. Meanwhile, here in the United States, these young people, and they're trying to whistle past the graveyard and get past graduation in a couple of weeks. I was at the small encampment on the campus of Howard University last night. I walked by there, saw some young people there, some of my own students, some of them graduating seniors, one who knew the two Howard students who were arrested over at the George Washington encampment, the D.C. area encampment. Some people from Black Alliance for Peace were there with them. I'm looking at this speech that Joe Biden is going to have to give at Morehouse. This is not going to end well for Biden. They're not both sides, as Reverend Barber said, in a moral issue. And if we think about this in the context of 68, finally, you've got Martin Luther King coming out against the war in Vietnam in April 68. You've got the Poor People's Campaign going on after his assassination in the summer of 68. You have that convergence in Chicago in 1968. You have Bobby Kennedy assassinated just before that, and a pro-war candidate in terms of Hubert Humphrey put before the American people, and that allowed the resurrection of Richard Nixon. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think if we study our history, we can pretty much predict what this kind of speech will lead to, and it ain't pretty for black people.
You know, and you know, Reese, again, when I see some of this stuff, I just sort of sit here and I'm going, are some of y'all actually listening to what you're saying? And a lot of this stuff, Reese, is fact-free. A lot of this stuff is just literally, I mean, I listen to some of this and I'm like, oh, so we just gonna make up a lot of this stuff? And act as if you don't have reporters on the ground who literally are covering these things. I was talking about this commentary that Dana Bash did at CNN, which was like unhinged. And I'm trying to understand one, she's a political correspondent. Two, she's an anchor. When you listen to this commentary that she gives, how did this get past standards and practices at CNN? I'm gonna play some of this, so check this out.
Politics, I'm Dana Bash. We start with destruction, violence, and hate on college campuses across the country. This was the scene just a short while ago at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Police clashing with protesters. 12 people were arrested. Hours earlier, protests rocked the University of Arizona, where campus police used chemical irritant munitions to remove protesters. Around the same time at UCLA, pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian groups were attacking each other, hurling all kinds.
Let me stop right there. First of all, that's a lie. Pro-Israeli protesters attacked pro-Palestinian. The pro-Palestinian protesters were defending themselves. The video is undeniable. They were not attacking each other. The pro-Palestinian protesters were defending themselves after they were attacked by the pro-Israel demonstrators. That's called a fact, and it shouldn't be confused. Okay, go back to it.
Objects, a wood pallet, fireworks, parking cones, even a scooter. And before that, the NYPD was able to clear Columbia University after protesters barricaded themselves inside a campus building. 300 people were arrested at Columbia and City College of New York.
See right here. So let me show you what they just did there. You're discussing Columbia, saying protesters barricaded themselves. Now we know that it actually were outsiders who took over the building. 44 at Columbia. The rest were at City College. Here's the difference. Columbia is a private university. It's a closed campus. City is a public university. It's wide open. But when you put the two together, oh my God, 300 arrests. What sounds different? 300 at Columbia and City College, or 44 at Columbia and more than 250 at City College? But you show video of Columbia. Okay, go ahead.
But it is unclear how many were actually students. New York City Mayor Eric Adams warned this morning that professional outside agitators are getting involved.
Okay, let's stop right here. So here's a problem when you go on the air, when you say it's unclear how many were outside agitators. So why are you quoting a number? If anybody on my staff says, I think there were 30 people arrested, my first response is, what do you mean I think? What's the number? Well, I read this and it was 18, so where did 30 come from? Well, see what happens when you start asking questions? So when you go on the air and you throw something out there and you don't have the actual information, then I'm sorry, what are you saying? Because she was very clear when she said 300 protesters at Columbia, and then said they were students. Wasn't factual. Let's go.
There is a movement to radicalize young people, and I'm not going to wait until it's done and all of a sudden acknowledge the existence of it. This is a global problem that young people are being influenced by those who are professionals at radicalizing our children, and I'm not going to allow that to happen as the mayor of the city of New York.
Okay, you mean such as when the NYPD said that there was the wife of a terrorist that was inside one of the buildings at Columbia, and then we later found out that wasn't factual? Gotcha. Okay.
Many of these protests started peacefully with legitimate questions about the war. But in many cases, they lost the plot. They're calling for a ceasefire. Well, there was a ceasefire on October 6th, the day before Hamas terrorists brutally murdered more than 1,000 people inside Israel and took hundreds more as hostages. This hour, I'll speak to an American-Israeli family whose son is still held captive by Hamas since that horrifying day that brought us to this moment. You don't hear the pro-Palestinian protesters talking about that. We will. Now, protesting the way the Israeli...
Okay, so Dana Bash said you don't hear the pro-Palestinian protesters talking about the hostages. Did y'all hear Dana Bash mention the 30,000 Palestinians killed? I didn't hear that. Okay.
She's a liar.
Government, the Israeli Prime Minister is prosecuting the retaliatory war against Hamas is one thing. Making Jewish students feel unsafe at their own schools is unacceptable, and it is happening way too much right now.
I'm a UCLA student. I deserve to go here. We pay tuition. This is our school, and they're not letting me walk in. My class is over there. I want to use that entrance. Why can't they go? Will you let me go in? This can be over in a second. Just let me and my friends go in.
Again.
Okay, all right. Here's the problem with that video. Did y'all see all of the students just walking around behind them?
He was just right there. Just go right the fuck over there.
Again, I want people who are watching, I need you to pay attention when people post stuff like this. There are people just walking behind them, and this dude is standing there. They won't let me go by. So you mean to tell me that on this massive campus, they have a line that stretches all the way over, they're not letting you walk by? And Dana, you actually use that video? Like, really? And you have the other students standing right there who are all quiet.
Right.
And if y'all see the frame, it's shot vertical, so you only see about 4 or 5 people. You don't even see how long. Y'all, come on now. Now listen to this.
You just saw is 2024 in Los Angeles, harkening back to the 1930s in Europe. And I do not say that lightly.
Okay, I'm sorry. She just said that what you saw in Los Angeles harkened back to the 1930s in Europe. Okay, let me go back. What happened in Los Angeles? She showed one dude who claims that he couldn't go to his class, but other students were milling on. And then, okay, as I said, the pro-Israeli protesters attacked the Palestinian protesters. So how are you hearkening back to the 1930s? And I don't say it lightly. Well, actually, you do say it lightly. And y'all, this is the problem you're seeing in mainstream media. You see the conflating of things. You see, and then it's like, oh, the pro-Palestinian students, they lost the plot. How? At Brown announced they are going to actually take a vote to divest. And they're not going to penalize the students.
Exactly.
You leave that out. That's literally a fact. But see, again, no. Because, see, y'all got to understand, if I come across somebody protesting, the first thing I'm going to say is, why y'all protesting?
Mm-hmm.
What are the reasons? But y'all notice, at no point, she mentioned, oh, the war and no. Their students first, at Columbia, they were protesting the opening of a center in Tel Aviv that Palestinian students could not attend. That's a fact. If you go, the original letter they submitted had the details in it. Oh, I'm sorry, details. That's called being a reporter. My bad. What was I thinking? Listen.
Fear among Jews in this country is palpable right now. Welcome to Inside Politics. I'm Dana Bash. We start.
So again, what we're seeing, Reese, we're seeing media folk create these narratives as opposed to, one, lean on folks who are on the ground. There was a sister at NBC who was on the ground saying, I was there. What y'all are saying happened, I didn't see. She's on the ground. You're sitting in a studio, Joe and Mika, in Florida, at your house in Florida. What the hell are you talking about? Well, I talked to Frank. No, but you're not on the ground. And so what then happens is the media narrative becomes fact. Folk then run with it and say, well, CNN said, MSNBC said, as opposed to what actually happened. And this, to me, is a fundamental problem that we're seeing.
Well, I don't even think it becomes fact. It just further erodes people's trust in the mainstream media. This is why the trust in the media is in the pits, along with trust in Congress and a number of other institutions, because we see propaganda being pushed as though it is news. We see narratives being pushed that do not square with the facts, with what we can see with our own two eyes. And I mean, I don't know if people just have lost their damn minds or if they're just depraved individuals. I understand that there's a lot of fear around Trump being reelected, around this potentially hurting President Biden's electoral chances. And so, oh my God, God forbid anybody protest in favor of humanity, because that could hurt the Democrats. What about the people getting slaughtered? You know what could help the Democrats? Doing the right fucking thing. You know what could help the Democrats? Responding to these protests in a manner that honors the humanity of people and decency. You know what is escalating these protests, escalating the violence? Every single video that you showed, the common denominator was the police fucking with people. Yeah. If you allow people to sleep in their tents, sit down, sing kumbaya shit, have a human chain, whatever, then they will go on about their business. These people are not agitators for the most part. You're agitating them to die on the hill of slaughtering children, of rounding people up, dislocating people, forcing migration within a tiny strip of besieged territory that has been cut off of electricity, of food, of water, of resources, hospitals bombed, all kind of areas desecrated, churches, mosques, everything bombed, and you put them into a slither of land and you carpet bomb them, and then you starve them. This is what y'all are defending. There wasn't a ceasefire on October 6th. And I'm not defending in any way, shape, or form what happened on October 7th. I will not defend that. I'm not defending having hostages. But what's the proportionality here where Palestinian lives come into play? How many fucking children have to be slaughtered? We're already at least 14,000. That's not even counting the people that are currently starving to death. And so if you cannot see a reason why there's an outcry to stop that, why there's an outcry to stop billions of dollars going to aid in the slaughter of besieged, helpless people, you've lost the motherfucking plot, not these students. And they can put up whatever person they want. Oh, these bratty entitled children, these woo. We have too much emphasis on decorum in this country, too much emphasis on trying to win elections instead of pushing our politicians to do the right fucking thing. And we have more emphasis on that than we do on watching human carnage being broadcast in front of us over and over and over again. You've lost the fucking plot. If you put more emphasis on what bratty little children are doing, right, and how they doing it, than you do on the fact that the bombing and the slaughter and the starvation, the famine, and just the carnage needs to stop. Period.
Yep. All right, folks. We'll see, because graduation is coming up, and so those will be interesting events ahead.
Wait. Can I say one more thing? Because President Biden said that the protests have led to the cancellation of the graduation. No, USC canceled the graduation because they did not want to give a valedictorian who was not who was Arab or Muslim the ability to give her speech.
Yep.
That is what canceled it, not agitators.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. All right, folks, going to a break. We come back, we're going to talk about broadband and how a lot of folks may lose access to it because Congress ain't getting their act together. We're going to have a short break. We'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie of A Balanced Life. Think about the men in your life and ask yourself these questions. Who are their male role models? Who can they turn to for advice to learn about what manhood is all about? On our next show, we talk about why male mentoring is so important to men of all ages. Actor Dondre Whitfield leads an all-star cast and panel to answer these and many other probing questions.
A woman can't teach you how to be something that she's not.
That's on the next A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie on Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Latasha from the A.
And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
$23 million families will see an increase in their internet bills this month because the federal broadband subsidy program they're enrolled in is almost out of money. There's been a last-ditch effort to extend the Affordable Connectivity Program, which Congress created. It's a subsidy to bring internet access to every household. The program, which helps people with limited means pay their broadband bills, is set to expire at the end of May. Kenya Ashley is the Director of Broadband and Digital Equity for the Baltimore City Office of Information and Technology. Glad to have you on the show. So 23 million folks, is it a combination of city, rural? Who really is affected?
I'll tell you, the folks who are affected are the folks that cannot afford internet. Some of us paying your internet bill, it's one of the many bills you pay every month. But too often, our low-income residents across the country, again, city, rural, it doesn't matter, where at the bottom line is those folks who cannot currently afford their bills are going to be most impacted. And for most of those folks, it breaks down to, do I pay my internet bill this month, or am I paying for transportation costs? It really breaks down to basic needs for some of our lowest income households.
So what is the push? I mean, is there a push on Congress to get this done?
Yeah, so the House has a bill, House Bill 6929. The Senate has a bill 3565. These bills will reauthorize funding to continue the Affordable Connectivity Program. And what that means is that those households, again, now it's $30 a month. Now, for some folks, they hear $30 a month and they think, is that really a big deal? But when your internet bill is $100 a month, paying just 65 or just $70 makes a huge difference in your budget. That's what we're hearing from our residents. And I'll tell you one more thing, Roland. These are our senior citizens who are already on a fixed income. These are residents who have no other stream of income that rely on, as much as possible, rely on these types of support programs.
So what do you want folks out there watching and listening to do?
Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to contact your congressional representatives, and I want you to tell them to support House Bill, let me say it slow, House Bill 6929 and Senate Bill 3565. It is important for our residents all over the country to be able to participate equally online, especially in light of this is an election year. We want all of our residents to be able to participate in government.
Well, it is. Look, it's one of those programs where you got folks who say it's no big deal. The issue that you have in the House, you got Republicans who now control the House. Any bill that deals with money has to start in the House before it goes to the Senate. And so the pressure is really on them to actually get this bill moving.
You're right. The pressure is on. But what we can do as voters is push. Because again, for some folks, it's only $30. But when you have to make the hard decision every month for your household, $30 is it's the difference between being able to apply for benefits online, being able to sit online and do a telehealth appointment. It's the difference between going to work at home where you can easily access the job versus having to go in every day. Some of these things we take for granted, but the folks who really need the support, it's a night and day.
Absolutely. Kenyon, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Thanks for keeping folks updated and informed.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, take care, folks. Real quick, going to a break. We come back. We're going to talk about Haiti. Also, guess who shows up at a Trump rally? Former Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick. Yeah. And we'll tell you who he's going to be voting for come November. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
My name is Lena Charles, and I'm from Opelousas, Louisiana. Yes, that is Zydeco capital of the world.
My name is Margaret Chappelle. I'm from Dallas, Texas, representing the Urban Trivia Game.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you watch.
Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
Well, Donald Trump had a rally in Michigan on Wednesday, and guess who showed up? Go to my iPad, Henry. That's right, former Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick. Of course, Kilpatrick was pardoned or had his sentence pardoned, commuted by Donald Trump. And it was 16 years before Kilpatrick was supposed to be released from federal prison after being convicted of corruption. He sat near the stage. He was asked by reporters who was going to vote for in November. He said, quote, "I'm not going to answer that." But then as he was walking away, he said he won't be voting for incumbent Democratic President Joe Biden this fall. What do you think, Greg?
Well, I also think that was the same article where he's talking about he and his wife talking about maybe moving back to Detroit. Y'all know who not to vote for. Didn't Biden, Lord have mercy, didn't Trump pardon him?
Yeah. Trump commuted his sentence.
This is the crass politics of personal interest. What Reverend Barber said at the beginning of the show about, the morality and the time to rise. And Reese, thank you for very cleanly explaining the bright moral line in the sand around this question of killing in the so-called Middle East. Clearly, our brother, formerly known as the hip-hop mayor, perhaps would maybe have more of an investment in the Drake versus Kendrick war than real life. He seems to have lost his moral compass, if he ever had one at all. And so I guess it's really not surprising when you put your personal interest or what you perceive to be your personal interest over politics. And I hope the voters of Detroit will remember that when he tries to sneak back into the city and run for something.
Yeah, I would love to have Kwame Kilpatrick come to the Alpha Convention and explain that one.
How about that? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Reese, your thoughts?
I mean, he has one vote. So, hell, at least he ain't bought off as cheap as other people. 16 years of life back of freedom. I ain't entirely mad at him. I'm glad that he's just being a little bit more transparent about it as opposed to trying to. He did say he's voted for Trump, so that's not entirely transparent. But at least people know where he stands because we have a lot of people that throw a rock and hide their hand and try to be like, I don't, I ain't gonna name names. We know them who try to say, I'm not saying I support Trump. I'm not saying I support won't. So you know where he stands. He was bought off. I think it's a reasonable price. Listen, I'll vote for Trump too. Shit, if I was let out of jail 16 years earlier, I probably wouldn't have a blast. But I ain't really mad at him. Is it a selfish interest? Yes, but we all have one vote. So I'm just being pragmatic here. But now you know where Kwame Kilpatrick stands. Don't follow his ass unless you need to get out of jail 16 years earlier.
Greg, we made the point about crass politics. So when Trump, he pardoned Lil Wayne, Kodak Black. He pardoned one of the co-founders of Death Row, which Snoop Dogg was very interested in getting. And we know exactly what that was all about. And I'm sitting here, looking at a lot of these people like, yeah, see, that's right. Trump rival black folks. And I'm sitting there going, oh, so y'all are going to ignore all the rest of that stuff? You'll know everything else? I love how folk just, and then again, when you start talking about facts, in fact, let me see, which phone do I have it on? So the Trump folk, Greg, have been running, let me do this here. Let me put it on this iPad. I got it on one phone. So the Trump folk have been running a radio ad on Detroit radio stations. And I want to play this ad because I know both of y'all need some additional laughter in your lives on today. And so, because if y'all got a kick out of that Dana Bash commentary, wait until y'all hear this commercial here. Give me a second. I'm airdropping it to my iPad because I think y'all gonna find this to be really, really, really interesting. So let me go ahead and get this thing queued up. So here we go.
Hi, I'm a volunteer for Joe Biden. Are you registered to vote?
Yeah, I voted for Biden last time.
That's great.
Really? Have you looked around? Everything costs more. Food, gas, housing. We're struggling to pay our bills.
Okay, but what about everything he's done to protect illegal immigrants?
Protect them? Did you see that Biden's paying rent for illegals now? They get handouts and we pay for all of it. And Biden's letting Mexican cartels flood our neighborhoods with murderers and drugs.
Well, Biden's done a ton to stop transgender discrimination.
Transgender discrimination? Stopping men from using girls' bathrooms isn't discrimination. Keeping men out of girls' sports and out of girls' locker rooms is just common sense.
So Biden can still count on your vote, right?
Not this time. Trump will stop the sexualization of our children and declare war on the cartels. I'm voting for Donald Trump. Make America Great Again, Inc. paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Megapack.com.
So Trump is going to stop the sexualization of children. Tell it to the parents of kids who were Jeffrey Epstein. And so you see what he's doing there, Reese. How he is trying to use transgender issue and illegal immigration, weaponizing against black people.
It's fucking brilliant, and it could work. It's unfortunate that you could use such issues like that to distract people from the fact that Trump said he wants to give cops immunity. They can shoot the hell out of black people, stop and frisk, whatever, and there aren't going to be any consequences. About the fact that he wants to strip the same way he wants to get rid of illegals, so-called illegals, he gonna strip your ass of your citizenship too. But it works. There's a reason why he's running these ads and targeting the folks that he's targeting. It aligns with the disinformation campaign that we've seen targeting black people all throughout social media. There are 0% of athletes are trans, but it's one of the main talking points that you hear from Republicans. And it's a talking point that resonates with a lot of black people as well. So it's smart. I mean, I wish the Democrats had some shit like that. I don't know. We don't have nothing. We try to do the right thing, except for on Palestine. Aside from that and a couple other shit, we try to do the right thing. So we don't have anything like that we can really sell and say, well, look at what the trans people are getting. Look at what the Asians is getting. Look at what we don't have those same kind of issues. So they're playing the cards that they're dealt. And if we can't see through it, and if we want to vote against our interests to stop these imaginary villains, then, hey, we get the government that we deserve.
Actually, I think you do have it. I think you do have it, Greg, because I think if you're Democrats, if you run an ad saying, hey, I know you really want student loan debt relief, but are you going to support Trump, who wants to give tax breaks to people who have private planes and yachts? Do you own one? You can ask that question. Or you can run the audio of Trump saying, hey, a lot of you rich people supported me, and guess what? You did great when I was president, and you're going to do better when I'm president again. I would run that sucker. I damn sure run that sucker against him. I would damn sure use the audio of him calling Colin Kaepernick a son of a bitch. Oh, I absolutely would use that one. And then I would definitely run ads on the gospel stations talking about 2 Corinthians. See, I would absolutely use. So they have the. But see, again, here's what I think the difference between. And I'm gonna go back to that comment from Michelle Obama. When they go low, we go high. Democrats love.
I know she hates that she said that now because she get dragged every time.
Democrats love to go high.
They do.
No, you got the like I did a podcast with Michael Steele. I said, well, they hit your ass in the knees. I said, you hit their ass in the shins. If they hit your ass in the ankles, you hit their ass on the bottom of their feet. No, you got to understand, you are in a fight that has no rules because your opponent doesn't believe in rules.
Correct.
That's true.
Your opponent does not believe in rules. There is no bottom. And so what you got to do is you got to be willing to go there and say, cool, you want to get in the mud? Let's go. Let's get in the mud. I would absolutely revive that at Entertainment Tonight or Access Hollywood or whatever the hell tape it was. I would see every foul thing he said. I would be running ads on black radio stations about the nasty stuff he said about Maxine Waters and when John Kelly condemned Frederica Wilson. Oh, hell yes, I would. Absolutely, I would. At every single damn moment. Every black person, every black woman he attacked, it'll be a whole new commercial against him. But Democrats want to play nice and fair, and
that's the problem. I'm telling you.
Can we all get along, Greg? That ain't how you win. You got to rip his damn heart out. That's what you got to do.
No, it's true. Of course. I mean, yes. Of course, it's true. It's true. It is true, and it's a difficult moment. Roland, I was talking with a brother the other day who works at one of the K Street think tanks. And he said, a lot of people think it's Democrat versus Republican, but when it comes to things like foreign policy, it's about, they all pretty much think the same. And he said, even domestically, it's about power. We're seeing the power of the Israel lobby now. Not just clowns like Richie Torres, who is wholly owned subsidiary of AIPAC, but others in this overwhelming majority that voted for this anti-Semitism bill in the federal legislature the other day, which is terrifying. This is really, Dana Bash wants to talk about the 1930s. Let's talk about it, Dana. Let's talk about it. But let's talk about it very seriously. Remember, Hitler won an election in Germany in the 30s. Don't play with this because, see, we're the ones who are going to bear the brunt. But there's a reason why Donald Trump pardons his hip-hop friends, because it feeds the idea of excess and material accumulation. And, remember that Donald Trump was popular in a segment of hip-hop before he even went on The Apprentice. I mean, this is the idea of pop culture. And you're right. I mean, Reese just said it. You said it. This man knows how to play the PR game. We're living in an era now of deep fakes. I mean, Drake had to drop his comeback against Kendrick because he had Tupac's voice on there. So you can't tell what's real and what's not. Again, that's why journalism is so important right now. But when you start talking about political education, The slow accretive work. What's going on a lot of these college campuses right now, including the one I was on last night, watching these Howard students sit and connect Congo and the Sudan and the fight for 15 and what's going on in Palestine, talking about foreign and domestic policy. That is not the interest of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party got donors too. And so trying to play this game in a situation where the other side has no rules. They have a bought and paid for Supreme Court that is going to try to push this man past his trial so that he won't be convicted of anything. He can get in and dismiss the federal lawsuit if he can get at it. We have a national military budget swallowing everything whole and pumping, as you said, Reese, billions into an attempt at ethnic cleansing. But our young people and our people generally, you know why they won't fight? When you try to put a message out and say, did you get any money? The billionaires did. It's because in this country, everybody has been brainwashed into thinking that they're going to be a billionaire one day. Exactly. And so the idea is that Donald Trump fights for us because one day I'm going to be a billionaire and I don't want those people to take my money either. Meanwhile, you're not even going to be able to tweet that or text that or put it on the gram or put it on TikTok because your damn internet going to be gone because you got not two pennies to run together and they're not going to pass a bill to extend the money that came from the Reconstruction Act so that you can even get on the damn phone to tweet about how you was going to be a billionaire. Propaganda is how fascism maintains and extends its authority. This is what we are facing right now. This, as I said, we know what's going to happen. The only question is, are we going to take enough time? And this is why Black Star Network is so important, to educate ourselves to see what is coming so that we can stop it. Because it's not a mystery about what's going to happen. It's happening right now. These cops, these punk-ass cops, half of them, 3/4 of them, however many of them, without college degrees, taking the opportunity to take their little manhood between their tweezer fingers and go beat up a bunch of children because they're loving it, sitting on horses, strapped in like they fight in the military. These punks are the same ones that were in the Know-Nothing Party in the 19th century. They were the ones who wanted to be in the Hitler Youth, but since they couldn't, did the America First stuff in that same 1930s Dana Bash. This is fascism. And our people worried about rap beefs, who's going to be on the Shade Room, and not supporting the Black Star Network in a moment when we can get all of that momentum if we can simply take our time, keep putting this message out, and touch each other in the way that Reverend Barber laid out. This is a fight, not a fight for America, not a fight for foreign policy or domestic policy. This is a fight literally for survival, for human survival. We're on the brink, and we got to do something about it, and this is part of that work.
Folks, you talked about, Greg, what's happening in the Congo. In Haiti, Haitian gangs have launched new attacks in the country's capital days after the swearing in of the Transition Council. Reports indicate that the 9-person council that was inaugurated a week ago could not agree on a prime minister. The infighting had some council members threatening to quit. Yeah, that's crazy. Nana Gianfalo is the executive director of the Black Alliance for Just Immigration. She joins us from Denver, Colorado. Glad to have you on the show. Nana, first of all, before I get to Haiti, I do want to get your thoughts on that ad on how Republicans are trying to use the immigration issue against Black people in playing into what, and I've heard this for years, this increasing anti-immigration sentiment among African Americans.
Yeah, I was listening over here just shaking my head. Thank you, Roland, for having me on. Just shaking my head because they know what they're doing. They know that the Black community, the African American community in particular in this country, has been so abandoned. And that they are part of the abandonment in terms of resources, in terms of attention, in terms of folks being able to have the things that they need and deserve based upon being human beings, but also based upon the legacy of what African Americans have built in this country. And they know that that abandonment has happened. And they know that they aren't, when they talk about quote unquote illegal immigrants, they know what they mean. They're referring to non-white immigrants and trying to make that pit. And, I wonder, you take a place like Chicago, do you know that they resettled 20,000 Ukrainians in Chicago? 20,000. Over 200,000 Ukrainians have come into this country either as refugees or asylum seekers. Who is wondering about that? Who is fighting that? Who is even bringing that up in the conversation? No one, because they're white and they're the ones who were actually taken care of by this government. They're the ones whose rent was actually paid. And the people.
So how do you counter it? How do you counter how they're trying to target black people? Because I've been saying for years to black people, and I even get black people when I say that you got black immigrants, and I hear some black people say to hell with them too. Even though right now 10% of the African-American population in the United States are immigrants.
Absolutely. And 20%, if you include people such as myself who were born in this country. That's 1 out of every 5 black people, right? And that's not a small number, 20% of the black population. What we do at Baji is really, it's a 2-part piece. One part is to talk to our own communities, black migrant communities, to get them a better sense of really what blackness is in this country, what African Americans have been a part of, what African Americans have gone through, what the legacy has been of what has been built, to make sure that we are funneling into that. We are not going to leapfrog over African Americans into some white land of milk and honey called the American dream. That is not going to happen. It's an American nightmare, as Malcolm said, for us too. So that's the first part. The second part is to speak to African Americans and remind African Americans that you are considered foreign in this country. Let's not pretend, as the sister just said earlier, this attack on the 14th Amendment to make it so that people like me who were born here are not citizens is the only reason that African Americans are citizens of the United States of America. And so this idea, when you talk about moving, everyone moves, right? But when African Americans moved, it was called a great migration, because that word migrant is applied to people that this country believes are not really a part of this country. And so having that conversation to make folks understand, we have to expand what blackness is in order to build power. White folks expanded who it is to be white to build power. Brown folks expanded who it is to be brown to build power. Black folks, we got to expand what it means to be black if we're going to build the kind of power we need to not become the more diminutive power minority, quote unquote, in this country.
So share your thoughts on what's happening in Haiti.
So what's happening in Haiti is a takeover. It's a continuation of the takeover that you know so much about, Roland, in the way in which the United States, in which France, in which Canada has always been interfering in the business of Haiti. And so, yes, Haiti has a situation in which there is rampant violence, a situation in which people are food insecure, a situation in which people are really in a state of survival and trying to make it happen. And all of that is the result of what has been Western policy, U.S. policy, from the kidnapping of Aristide, a duly elected president of Haiti in 2004, to 100 years before, up until today. And this council that you talked about is a council of which nary a single person was elected by the Haitian people, was nominated by the Haitian people. This is all the outside, be it the CARICOM, the Caribbean community, being the black face, basically, of the United States, France, and Canada, to bring these people together who represent every failed government and Western-backed government that Haiti has had, put them all in a room together and said, hey, now you're going to run the country. And the first thing they do, or the second thing they do, is to elect as a prime minister a person, Fritz Belizaire, who was the sports minister in the 2000s. That gives you a sense. With the requirement that this council allow a multinational police force led by Kenya, which ain't got nothing to do with Haiti, again, black-facing the violence, to come in and supposedly be able to quell this violence that's happening in Haiti. We know that it has to be a Haitian solution that comes from the Haitian people. That's what we know from how we address violence in this country, how violence is addressed in the favelas of Brazil, and everywhere that Black people are around the world. We are the ones that have to come up with the solution, and there should be nothing about us, as we say, without us. And that's what we have with this council and what's moving in Haiti right now on the political level.
Questions from the panel, Greg?
Thank you, Roland, and thank you, Sister Nanai. As you say, the blood of the Ghanaian people runs through the veins of Haiti, and so many Africans got taken to that island from West Africa. So thank you for your work, and thank you for the work of Baji. You know, how can we get folk to understand and ultimately address this division between the people and the privileged? I mean, this whole show, beginning with Reverend Barber, the question of what the people need, but then you got this bourgeois elite here in the United States, and of course in Haiti, never been allowed to develop. When you frame that, I mean, think about how Proval was there, and now here's this guy who was working with Proval, but the only reason Proval was there because the U.S. took out Aristide. Am I correct to say that the Montana group, and especially Lavoyas, those were the two cats that were like, hey, y'all pick this guy and then tell us what is going on. Should we leave? How should we think about the division between the people and the privileged in Haiti, especially finally as some of these armed militias are now clamoring for a seat at the table, and this cat, Cherizier, said, where these guns coming from? Well, some of these bourgeois Negroes in Haiti hired y'all and used the guns, and now the people are looking like, we need somebody. How can we separate out between the people and the privileged as a way to try to understand what can and can't be possible in Haiti?
So some of it, if you have the time to look at it, is you follow the money because the money is telling us what's happening. I mean, Haiti is always described, as so many of our majority Black countries are described, as impoverished, and yet there are people living it up. You know what I mean? They talk about the violence of Haiti. They talk about, we see the images with the shooting, but, there are areas where nothing is happening. Those people are safe and secure and driving their Mercedes and their Peugeot and their everything else and living the life. And those are the people that you see here on the council. Those are the people that now they're asking to be in charge. There are, as you know well, Brother Greg, there are community organizations that have, some new, some, since the time of Aristide and Lavoisier, that have been working on the ground with people, providing support. And those are the voices that we should be listening to. Even when they talk about the armed civilians, which they describe as gangs, and maybe some of them would describe themselves as gangs too. I tell my young folks that work with us at Baji, I'm old as dirt and twice as funky. And I worked in '92 with the gang truces that were happening in LA. I was one of the few sisters that was up in there. Brother Jitu Siddiqui, peace be unto him, that called with others for a national bringing together. Remember, from Kansas City, from Baltimore, from all of these places. And it was them who stopped it. It wasn't the police, all the LAPD squads and all of the people that were brutalizing with all the murders they were doing. They never stopped it. It was us who stopped it. We have those same experts alive today, old as dirt and twice as funky, and some younger ones. And we have them coming out of the favelas of Brazil. And we have them coming out of Central America. So we have the antidote, let's say, to even the armed violence. And what it is not is violence sponsored by the United States, France, and Canada, the European Union. That's the AU. That is not what is going to solve the problem here in Haiti. We have to say, what are the people calling for? The people are calling for food. The people are calling for aid. The people are calling for help in the same way that the Ukrainians were helped in this country, where people can unite with their families, make some money, do some things that can support folks back home. That's what the people are calling for. When it says death, we know it's not the people. When it's about life, we know it is about the people.
Yes.
Thank you,
Sid.
Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. I want to return to the topic of citizenship. You mentioned it after I mentioned it. I've noticed that a lot of the rhetoric around immigration has pivoted to being anti-Haitian immigration. And that's conveniently after they've passed a lot of laws, or they're starting to pass laws like in Louisiana and in Georgia, that allows police officers to arrest people just merely off the suspicion of them not being here legally. I've been trying to drive home the point with Black Americans that is going to impact us, because the ability of police to just stop anybody, just as much as it's going to impact Haitian immigrants or any kind of immigrant, whoever you deem is not worthy of being here in this country, regardless of status. Can you talk a little bit? Have you seen any kind of increase in policing around Black communities, around immigrant communities with these new legislations being passed?
Absolutely, and thank you for that. So firstly, there is a lot of talk about Haiti because Haiti are like the Black migrants that we know. So it's kind of like how every brown migrant was a Mexican, remember? And so everyone would just say the Mexican. So people say the Haitians, but actually the numbers that are really increasing are folks that are coming in from the continent. And you can kind of trace what's happening on the continent in terms of conflict, climate change, et cetera, and that tells you who's coming in. And absolutely, there's this connection. So this is the core of Baji's work. So thank you for this, is the criminalization issue and how it impacts both African Americans and Black migrants. In fact, we say we fight for both Black migrants and African Americans because you can't separate us. When the police stop me, they're just stopping me. They don't care about where I may come from. What we have is a police to deportation pipeline. When you have a law like SB 4 in Texas that says if you think someone looks like they are not from this country, you get to stop them. I wish we could show all four of our faces on this screen. Who don't come from this country and who come from this country? Right. And so they're stopping you for, I'm a criminal defense attorney, was a former president of the National Conference of Black Lawyers, the legal arm of the Black Liberation Movement. They're stopping us for having those little trees in the window, right? They're stopping us because they say that your taillight is out. Now, they have literally been told, if it don't look white, you get to pull it over, right? And we know that pullover is going to learn to those searches, become those searches. It's to become those Sandra Blands. It's going to become all of those cases, tragic cases of people being killed as a result of a traffic stop, as a result of being stopped while Black, of just walking. And that has already happened. So that's the thing people need to understand. That's happened in Boston. Remember, there was a brother who was jogging and this ICE cop pulled up next to him. There's an African American. He didn't know what the brother was. He just knew that he was Black and he wanted to be able to stop him. This is an ICE cop. It's not even a regular, local law enforcement cop. You've had Black people who are African American who have been deported because in the moment they weren't able to produce a passport. How many of our people in this country have U.S. passports? How many of us have our passport? How many of us are walking around with our birth certificate in our pocket? And so to both of your points, or all three of your points, when fascism gets entered into this, now it becomes a no rules, no holds barred. You'll be trying to explain to people that you're not really from Panama, but you'll already be in Panama in a prison that has been designed and set up and paid for and organized by the U.S. government. And I'm talking about all the administrations, including this administration.
Well, it's a whole lot to digest there. And again, our goal is to let folks provide different information and I just keep trying to explain to people. And I get these folks sitting here, oh man, you trying to sit here letting all these immigrants in. And I keep trying, I'm like, guys, y'all can sit here and complain all y'all want to, but there are people in this country who are from Bermuda, Haiti, Jamaica, who are from a number of different African nations as well. And if you act like that those numbers don't have an impact on voting areas, look, I'm from Houston. Houston has the largest Nigerian population in the United States outside Nigeria. Houston does, because many of them go to Texas.
We have the highest proportion of naturalized citizens, right? So we are not mostly undocumented. We are mostly the people who are able to vote. Shirley Chisholm's parents were from the Caribbean. We're, Kwame Ture, Black Power, Trinidad. Like, this is not a new hookup. We've been here. Inse Ufot, who used to be the ED of New Georgia Project, running around getting 800,000 people with that crew registered to vote in the state of Georgia. She came here when she was 12. and became a naturalized citizen. We are here. We've been here. We're not going anywhere. Let us build power together instead of falling into this trope that then sends people in directions that we don't want them to go in, where they're actually working against the legacy that African Americans and others have built together.
I keep trying to tell folks that, and so we appreciate it. Thank you so very much. If folks want to get more information on your organization, where do they go?
They go to www.baji.org. And also you can hit us up at Twitter, Baji Tweets, and on Instagram at InstaBaji, and that's BAJI. Thank you so very much for having me. Lovely talking with all of you.
All right, we appreciate it. Thanks so much. That is it for us, Reese and Greg. First of all, let's have a belated happy birthday to Greg. Greg, your birthday was Saturday, correct?
Yes, sir. I appreciate that, Bob Roland.
And of course,
I just passed my anniversary on the 15th.
Well, my 35th anniversary was Saturday, April 27th, your birthday.
Well, come on, man. Happy birthday.
Yes, sir. now you say your anniversary was April 15th?
The 15th, yes, sir.
Okay. How many years?
1985, brother. It'll be 40 next year. Can you believe that?
Wow, 39 years. Well, so good.
You right behind me, though.
Huh?
You right behind me, Roland. I tell the young boys we pledged in the dark ages, brother. Some of that stuff can't be repeated.
I'm at 35, so I'm not right behind you.
Right behind you.
I'm 4 behind. Let's just be real clear.
Yes.
I mean, right behind if it was 38. Okay.
Facts.
Yes. My brother, his anniversary.
This is the only time you've ever not tried to out alpha somebody. This is the first time you're like, I'm not as alpha as you.
He's just younger. That's all.
Right. I mean, you know, he older. So you know, when you got your senior alphas.
Oh.
See, Reese, I don't think you understand. See, Reese, you've never been so at the Alpha convention. There literally is a whole separate like cooling area, a lounge. There's a separate lounge for senior alphas.
Lord have mercy.
They have their own lounge. Like literally, you have to be a certain years in the frat to be able to go into that lounge. And so I'm just saying, Greg will be able to go into that lounge at least 4 years before I will.
I'm about to say, but neither one of us can get in there now because them old heads serious about that algae.
Yes, you're right. If you ain't got a certain badge, you can't even open that damn door.
Okay.
Look, Mariba Kelsey, who was he's the last surviving member, founding member of the chapter at Tuskegee. We were down there in September. They honored him. He'll be 99 next month. And see, them cats, man, they gave him his 75-year member pin. I ain't never seen that in person, brother.
Yes.
So, yeah, that lounge is for them old heads, brother. You know
Yes. So Greg will be in that lounge before I will. All right, so again, happy belated birthday, happy alphaversary.
Happy belated birthday, Dr. Carr.
As well. So again, that's it. Reese, what the hell's coming up on the show this weekend?
I don't know yet. It's a lot. Maybe the Maryland primary. I still got to drag David Trone for coming after County Executive Angela Austin Brooks.
When is the Maryland primary?
So it's early voting right now, and then I believe I always early vote, but it's early voting right now through the 9th, and then I think the 14th is primary day.
Oh,
but
gotcha.
Yeah, don't let.
Well, you might want to tell. I mean, here's what I don't understand. So somebody from the Angela Alsbrook campaign called me about coming on the show, and I ain't heard from him since.
Okay, I'm gonna reach out.
I don't understand. I mean, they called. Well, they called to see if I was going to talk about the Trone Jigaboo comment, which we did. And I ain't heard from them since. So, just saying.
Yeah, we gotta work with our people.
I'm just saying. I mean, we kind of talk about black people all the time. And of course, we'll be. Next week, we'll be talking with Marilyn Mosby, who is seeking a pardon from President Biden. She faces sentencing later this month, and she's like, how am I convicted for trying to use my own money? We'll be chatting with her as well.
What day is that going to be?
Well, we were trying to get her on today, but there was a conflict, so it's probably going to be Monday or Tuesday. Tomorrow's up in the air for me because tomorrow they have a presentation of the Presidential Medal of Freedom at the White House. I am a guest of Clarence Jones. Who, of course, is Dr. King's speechwriter. He is one of the honorees, and so I will be there tomorrow. The program starts at 4:40, so not quite sure if I'll be able to get back to host the show, even though we're down the street. So we'll see. And also, folks, don't forget, if you're going to be in Ohio this Saturday, I am going to be at Wilberforce. Wilberforce giving the commencement address on Saturday. And so looking forward to that. My man, Dr. Van Newkirk, he is the president of Wilberforce and invited me to come on out there. And so I will be there, the 168th anniversary of Wilberforce. And so I will be in the house. I previously gave, so now we completed the trick because I actually several years ago gave the commencement speech to Central State, which is literally across the street. I gave, and they have this amazing, I think it's a statue of Dr. King that was given to them by Bill and Camille Cosby. It's an amazing statue on their campus. I took a photo of it. I'll be on the campus of Wilberforce on Saturday.
That's beautiful, man. Charles Wesley and W.E.B. Du Bois. Wilberforce, well, Wesley was president of Wilberforce. So you talk about alpha, man. You get ready to bring that right to the center, man. Congratulations on that, bro.
Yep. So looking forward to it. So it's graduation season, and of course next week Howard has their graduation. I got to be back again because my niece who got her undergrad last year, she gets her master's next week, Faith Marshall. So I'll be, she
Faith picked it up that fast, man.
Yeah.
That's hard work right there, man.
I delivered the boxes to her last night to pack her shit up. So, yes. So, she got her undergraduate last year. She getting her master's. She graduates next week. So she knocked out the undergrad and the master's in architecture at Howard in 5 years. So, yep.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, I know.
Congratulations.
Little smart ass.
When she got there, man. She just got there, man.
Yeah.
She's not playing.
Yeah, I know. Little smart ass kids, you know. Just saying. That's right. Good. Now they can graduate and start spending their own damn money. There we go. All right, Greg and Reese, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, don't forget, if y'all want to support us in what we do, your support is absolutely critical. As I said, I got to open up these envelopes to the folks who've already sent their money orders and checks. Our people who, I love black people. They tell me, they say, listen, I don't do electronic stuff. I'm old school. They'll walk up to me and hand me money when we different places. But we appreciate it because it all absolutely works. And so if y'all want to join our Bring the Funk fan club, senior check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can also, of course, download the Black Star Network app. Y'all, we need to get to 100,000 downloads. It's taking too long, okay? Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can also, of course, help us by getting my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Mind. Available at bookstores nationwide. Download the audio version on Audible. And I have select copies of The First, President Barack Obama's Road to the White House, as originally reported by Roland S. Martin. Some great interviews in there with Erica Alexander, Spike Lee, Malik Yoba, all kinds of Hill Harper, and so many others. Also, you got photos in there. You got a DVD of my NAACP Image Award winning interviews with then Senator Obama and Michelle Obama. All of that. I cut the price down, $10 for the book, $5.99 shipping and handling. I'm personally autographing all of the books. And so, you want to get your copy? I do not have, I'm trying to tell you, once I sell all of these out, I'm not actually printing any more. So you want to get your copy, go to RolandSMartin.com/the first, RolandSMartin.com/the first. And don't forget to get your Shibori pocket squares, your custom feather pocket squares, by going to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. That's it, folks. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Maybe. Actually, I will see y'all. I'll send some video from the White House. And of course, Wilberforce, I'll see y'all on Saturday as well. All right, folks, that's it. Y'all know how we end the show. And so y'all know it's been a little warm in D.C., so I had to crack out, the straw hats. That's it. I'll see y'all. Holla! Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?